What are your thoughts when you see a black woman shot?
It's America.
This is a woman, 36-year-old woman.
That's America. Wow. And it's been happening. This ain't nothing new.
The shooting of a black woman inside her own home is sparking national outrage this morning. Sonya Massey, a 36-year-old black woman, was gunned down by a deputy.
Sounded pretty inhuman, didn't it?
I mean, as inhuman as it gets.
Question is, was it a human?
Oof.
And when I say was it a human, the police officers that we put out into the street, are they properly vetted? No. Or are they just accepting anyone? What are those psych evals looking like?
Jaguar Wright is turning up the heat once again, and this time she's not holding back.
What are your thoughts?
I'd like to know what that cop does in his spare time.
That is very interesting.
In her latest explosive critique, this time she's accusing what she calls Nazi cops of burying the tragic murder of Sonya Massey.
You can't have a scared person with a gun in the field. You can't have an egomaniac in the gun with a field. In the field. You can't have someone who's bigoted.
The story goes that Sonya, a black woman, was shot dead by white police officer Sean Grayson, even as she begged for mercy.
Please don't send no combative policemen that are prejudiced, please. They're scary. I'm scared of the police. Sometimes they make the serious bit worse.
So her death, which should have sparked outrage and swift justice, is instead fading into obscurity as details remain scant. And the investigation seems to be stalling, and Jaguar is furious, and she's demanding answers.
What it sounds like is that person played a lot of Call of Duty and a lot of Grand Theft Auto as a child, and now he has a gun.
But Jaguar isn't stopping there. She's raising eyebrows by dragging Oprah Winfrey into this mess, claiming that Oprah's reputation might be hiding a darker side.
In my honest opinion, that witch, Grace, was Mir, who was Usher, who was Q-Tip, Bonita Applebum, a witch.
She has always argued that Oprah, who's often lauded for her philanthropy and media empire, has been linked to serious allegations, trafficking claims and accusations of demeaning black individuals.
Truth is, she wasn't the kind of person that was prepared to have a famous.
It's even more messed up that her partner, who's always been super active in the black community, is now totally quiet. Makes you wonder if he's feeling the pressure too. I'm
dedicated to her happiness, and so that's great for her. And I want her to be the best she could possibly be, and she's done a pretty good job.
But the big question here is, why is Oprah's name so frequently glossed over in discussions about her alleged crimes? But at least Jaguar's outburst raises a series of compelling questions.
Guess what? People just want to know what's happening on Love and Hip Hop next.
Why are the authorities so quick to silence and ignore the truth behind cases like Sonya Massey's?
The thing he's worried about are the commands he's ordering the character to do.
Are we seeing a pattern where racial injustices are systematically covered up? Is the media's focus on Oprah's charitable work distracting us from more sinister accusations that involve her?
What are your thoughts?
I'd like to know what that cop does in his spare time.
That is very interesting.
I wonder if he's a gamer.
That's very interesting.
How much influence does Oprah's power and celebrity have on the justice system's response to these allegations?
He did have a Viking tattoo, which they say was affiliated to some white supremacist, so we know his thoughts.
And let's not forget the bigger picture. If Oprah, who is supposed to be a beacon of progress and social justice, is entangled in serious controversies, what does that say about the broader system?
But recently, there have been reports that girls have been going missing. It's been news on social media, and there hasn't been any concrete evidence, but it has just taken social media by a storm.
Is the same system that's supposed to protect and serve also complicit in protecting high-profile figures from scrutiny? Why does it seem like these figures, whether they're cops or media moguls, have a different set of rules that apply to them?
That's as quickly as we move on.
It's all been staged as entertainment, so no one has to feel guilty about not feeling anything at all.
Seems like Jaguar's call-out is more than just a criticism. It's a challenge to everyone to look deeper into these issues and question the narratives we're fed. So are we being misled by the surface-level stories that keep us from seeing the truth? As Jaguar's accusations reverberate, it's clear that we need to ask ourselves, are we willing to dig beneath the glossy facade and confront the real stories hiding in the shadows? Stay tuned as the drama unfolds and the search for answers continues. First off, let's set the record straight. The cops knew what was going on. When Sonya called 911 about an intruder, it wasn't the first time she'd reached out for help. She'd made several emergency calls in the days leading up to the incident. In one of those calls, Sonya's mom, Sonya Massey, informed the cops that her daughter was having a mental breakdown. This was around 9 a.m. and Sonya was outside yelling on the streets. Donna mentioned that when Sonya gets worked up, she starts thinking everyone's out to get her, almost like she's got paranoid schizophrenia. And there's more. Donna was really concerned about her daughter's safety and knew things could escalate, which is why she specifically asked the authorities not to send someone who might be biased. In another call, an unidentified woman reported that people were trying to hurt her. Then, just a day later, Sonya herself called to say a neighbor had hit her with a brick. A sheriff's deputy met her at the hospital where she went for treatment after making the call. She told the officer the same story about the neighbor and added that she had broken a window trying to get into a car to escape. Sonya also mentioned that she had just been released from a mental health facility and that earlier that day, a cop had tried to run her off the road. Now, Sonya's son, Malachi Hill Massey, is stepping into the spotlight. Her family has been pushing hard to get the truth out, holding press conferences left and right. In a recent one, Malachi revealed some new details. He said that on the day of the incident, there was another 911 call, and 2 officers showed up at their home because of it. Malachi believes Sean was there too. Her son said he thought the second officer might be responsible. He explained that he'd talked to the officers, and they told him Sonya was actually driving herself to the hospital at the time of the incident. She wasn't at the scene. She was on her way there. They said they were going to help her, but then the incident happened.
Second officer, that's the one that, I think, the one that did that. I talked to them, and they told me that because she was driving herself to the hospital.
And this has got the internet buzzing. If Sean showed up at the house before, it means he knew about Sonya's mental health issues and still acted aggressively. So, was Sonya actually set up? Well, let's clear something up. This isn't the first time this idea has come up. In an interview with CBS Mornings, Sonya's dad, James Wilburn, revealed that he didn't even know his daughter had been taken out by a police officer. Authorities had told him that an intruder was responsible for the attack.
I was never told that it was a deputy-involved shooting. We were under the impression that she was killed by the intruder.
Massey's father, James Wilburn, told CBS Mornings that the family wasn't initially informed that their loved one's shooting death involved law enforcement. "We thought she was killed by an intruder or someone from the street, and they just found her body," Wilburn said, adding that rumors started circulating that her death was self-inflicted. Despite how hard it is to watch, Wilburn said he's grateful for the body cam video, which has brought some transparency to his daughter's death. He said, "It's probably the most horrible, heart-wrenching thing we've ever seen in our lives. But if it weren't for the body cam footage, we wouldn't have known this happened." He mentioned he had been told that someone from the street or another individual had gone into the house and found her body. He only learned that deputies were responsible for her death when his brother asked for Sonya's address. After getting the address, his brother found out it indicated deputies were involved, which left him confused and questioning what that really meant.
My brother asked for Sonya's address, and I gave it to him. And he said, "Brother, this says deputies involved." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
There was even a story going around suggesting that Sonya might have done this to herself. In the end, it was the body cam footage that revealed the truth and brought everything to light.
Wrenching thing that we've ever seen in our lives, but if it were not for the body cam footage, we would not have known that this occurred.
Wilburn also mentioned hearing theories that the shooting was self-inflicted. He believes the cover-up started right after the shooting. When asked why Massey said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus" to Grayson, Wilburn speculated that his daughter was worried for her safety. "I think she feared for her life. Some premonition she had, and it seems like he's just an emissary of Satan, and that's what caused him to do what he did. It's just unexplainable," Wilburn said. And speaking of the body cam footage, Sean had turned off his own camera during the interaction. It was his partner's body cam footage that ended up exposing the truth. So, did Sean turn it off because he had already planned everything out? Was he trying to cover his tracks? Is this really just a random, senseless act of violence as we've been led to believe? Based on what's come to light, it certainly seems that way. So, Sean turning off his body cam during the interaction raises a lot of questions. It's like, why would he do that unless he had something to hide? Maybe he was trying to cover up what really happened. If it was just a random act of violence, why go through the effort to turn off the cam? That move suggests he might have been planning something or trying to manipulate the situation in his favor. What's interesting is that his partner's body cam footage is what ended up exposing the whole truth. It's almost like the universe was saying, nope, you're not getting away with this. The footage must have shown a different side of things, maybe revealing that Sean's actions weren't as spontaneous as they seemed. If the footage paints a different picture from what was originally reported, it makes you wonder about the whole scenario. Was there a deeper motive or some kind of premeditation involved? It's definitely making us question the narrative we were initially given. One person wrote, "The word rebuke has been used in the American Black community for 400 years plus. We know what she meant spiritually. Rip, daughter of Zion." Another one added, "The fact that he turned his cam off right before killing her clearly shows he had a motive. The fiancé definitely needs to be investigated because whatever happened between her and Sonya is the reason why he was so eager to kill her. #justice for Sonya Massey." And if you think that's a stretch, wait until you hear about the hidden connection between Sonya and Sean's girlfriend. So Isabel Butterfield, Sean's fiancée, not only had a connection to Sonya through her work at the mental health treatment center, but also was set to marry Grayson, who might now be in the middle of this mess. That's some serious drama. If Isabel and Sonya cross paths at the treatment center, it adds a whole new layer to the story. Did they have any interactions that might have sparked something? Maybe there was something Sonya knew or saw that could have been crucial. And with Isabel working there, it's interesting to think about the potential overlap in their professional and personal lives. Could there be more to their connection than just a coincidence? The fact that Isabel was engaged to Grayson and now everything's in turmoil makes you wonder if there's more going on behind the scenes. Is this connection something that could reveal deeper motives or hidden agendas? It's like every twist just pulls the story in a new direction, making it even more complicated.
I started doing some digging and I realized y'all said that Sonya had on a hospital bracelet. I looked up the closest place where she could have got medical care to her house, an 8-minute drive away.
And this just keeps getting more intricate. So Sonya was still wearing her hospital bracelet when she passed away, suggesting she was recently at the health center where Isabel worked. That definitely adds fuel to the fire of these theories. If Sonya was there for treatment, it means she might have been dealing with something significant and possibly stressful. The idea that something might have gone down between Sonya and Isabel right before the incident opens up a whole range of possibilities. Maybe there was a confrontation or a conversation that led Sonya to leave the health center in a hurry. It's also possible that the stress or conflict from that interaction contributed to her state of mind or actions leading up to her death. If Sonya was upset or agitated enough to rush home after seeing Isabel, it might suggest that their encounter was more than just a casual meeting. It could indicate that their relationship or interaction was fraught with tension or unresolved issues. And if Sean was involved in some way, it makes you wonder if this was a catalyst for a chain of events that spiraled out of control.
Could it possibly be that the police actually, especially Sean Grayson, who I'm talking about, actually caused the situation in the backyard and then they took the call, which is why she didn't even have a chance to get clothes on?
A lot of folks seem to think there's definitely something suspicious about the situation. One person commented, "Fiancé and fiancé's father need to be investigated." And the grandmother, disgusting. Clearly, this kind of character and moral depravity does not happen in a vacuum. Another one added, "Every police force that he worked for, every person who gave him a reference, the Capitol Community Health Center, including Isabel Butterfield, should be investigated thoroughly. There are more people who should be held accountable." Now, everything's up in the air and people are calling for an investigation into the average response times in the area and comparing them to the response time on the day of the incident. If it turns out this was all planned, does that mean his partner was involved too? Whatever the outcome, it's only adding to the suspicion surrounding Sean Grayson. One thing that really got people riled up was his shady employment history. After Sean Grayson's name hit the headlines, folks naturally started digging into his background, and you won't believe what they found. Apparently, when Sean first applied to be a police officer, he wasn't just hired for his skills. No, he got the job partly because he had a reference from his girlfriend's father. WCIA got hold of Grayson's personnel files through the Freedom of Information Act, and some details really caught people's attention. In his beneficiary designation and emergency contact info, Grayson listed his girlfriend's name. For references during the hiring process, he put down her father's name, Scott Butterfield, his future father-in-law and a former sheriff's deputy. According to a Facebook post by the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, Scott retired after 30 years of service in 2020. It seems his influence still carried weight, as Sean got the job partly thanks to him. With such a strong reference, it's hard to believe they wouldn't hire Sean. Mr. Butterfield advised me that Mr. Grayson is currently dating his daughter, Lieutenant Wes Wooden wrote in his background investigation of Grayson for the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office in March 2023. Mr. Butterfield describes Mr. Grayson as a mellow, non-confrontational person who has good communication skills. Mr. Butterfield highly recommends Mr. Grayson for employment with the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office. In a letter to the editor of the Muddy River News, Brenda Butterfield, Scott's mom, said Scott is a to-be father-in-law who is as close to Sean as a father can be. Meanwhile, Sangamon County Sheriff Jack Campbell mentioned that Grayson's personnel file includes references from people he knows well. So the big question is whether everyone chose to overlook warning signs just because Grayson had a reference from someone credible. And the warning signs were definitely there. Sean had worked at 5 different law enforcement agencies before landing a job at the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, making it 6 different police departments between 2020 and 2024. And get this, he also had 2 DUI convictions within a year on his record. One of these convictions even led to his early discharge from the Army. The Army decided he wasn't fit for duty, but the police force did a psychological evaluation of Sean on May 31st, 2023, and concluded he was fit to serve. However, they did include this in their report. He knows he can move too fast at times. He needs to slow down to make good decisions. He was instructed to take high-stress management classes. But guess what? Sean never showed up. Even more ridiculous, Sheriff Campbell claimed he wasn't aware of any issues at Sean's previous workplaces. However, the records obtained by WCIA paint a different picture. Sean was investigated twice for his behavior while at the Logan County Sheriff's Office. His supervisor even noted that Sean had disobeyed orders during a high-speed chase.
Right there into 2nd Street, she's taking that right.
Are you pursuing?
I'm about to terminate. She's flying up 121 right now.
Despite orders to terminate the chase, Grayson kept going. To avoid getting caught, he turned off the sirens and the lights. That decision backfired when he ended up slamming the car into a deer.
Until he hit a deer.
Well, I'll definitely be terminated because a buck just smacked the side of my driver's side door.
Did you violate a direct order
Yes.
from a supervisor about termination?
Then there's also the report from his boss at the Auburn, Illinois Police Department in 2022. This was written by the Auburn chief while he was giving a representative from Logan County a review of Sean's performance. According to the chief, Grayson struggled with report writing, which might be something you could overlook. However, what can't be overlooked is the part where the chief said Grayson was aggressive and had posted about his illegal substance arrest on social media. Did Sheriff Campbell pay any attention to this? No, sir. In fact, he gave reporters his own twisted reasoning for ignoring it. He alone is responsible for this, Campbell said in an interview with NBC News. He failed to do what he was trained to do, what he had experience to do, what he's equipped to do. He and he alone is responsible for that. Campbell, who has resisted calls to resign since the shooting, defended his office's vetting of Grayson prior to his hiring. We were satisfied that he could work as a police officer in Illinois, Campbell said. There was nothing about his past that would decertify him or disqualify him to be a police officer. He had been hired by 5 other agencies prior to ours, certified by the state of Illinois 6 times, including us, to work as a police officer. Campbell said his office was not aware of documented issues with Grayson's performance at previous agencies, but he refused to say whether he would have hired Grayson had he known, saying it would amount to speculation. Grayson worked for 6 law enforcement agencies in central Illinois in 4 years, in both part-time and full-time roles, before he was hired by Sangamon County, according to the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. He sometimes worked 2 part-time law enforcement jobs at once, the board's records show. Campbell described this as a typical path for an officer who wants to work at a larger department where the prospect of earning a higher income is greater. He said that Grayson had completed enough training at a part-time police academy before he began working in Sangamon County to work legally in the state, but that he required Grayson to complete an additional 16 weeks of training. He had everything he needed. He failed, Campbell said. This is his fault. He also said that a DUI does not disqualify a potential candidate, and that Grayson's questionable employment history didn't raise any red flags. Instead, it showed his admirable ambition to advance to larger and more structured departments. Mark Ayers, a Sangamon County board member responsible for hiring new deputies, said he was never made aware of Sean's troubled past or the negative reports from his previous employers. People find this kind of ridiculous. How is the police department doing business like this?
Would never bring on someone that had that troubled past or that record.
So yeah, there are a lot of questions here. Why did everyone around Grayson trust him so blindly? Why did his father-in-law back him? And since they did, are they to blame for his actions as well? But that's hardly the worst of it. With Sean being villainized by the public, his grandmother-in-law came out of hiding to defend him. She wrote an op-ed titled, "Does anyone care about Sean Grayson's family or what horrifying reality they are dealing with?" If that title made you raise your eyebrows, you're not ready for what she actually wrote. She starts off writing directly to the protesters. What are you protesting? Sean is in jail, charges are filed, a trial date will be set, and punishment will be applied. Sean is not going anywhere, so please stop wearing out your sweat glands. Take your signs and go home and just be humans, not the amusement or disgust of the public. Of course, people who read the op-ed were pissed. They felt like Butterfield was missing the entire point. The protests weren't just about Sean himself, but about why he was on the force in the first place, despite his history. It's not just about him, it highlights a deeper systemic issue within the police force that needs to be addressed. And then there's the fact that a life was taken. Being placed in handcuffs doesn't erase that loss. And then Butterfield goes, does anyone care about the destruction of her life? She is left to deal with an emotional death, Sean's future in-law families, a to-be father-in-law who is as close to Sean as a father as can be, a future mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and brother-in-law who is Sean's friend, future grandparents who loved Sean dearly and still do, shock, disbelief, and reality, but an undying support for Sean. The past cannot be relived. The future is unknown. And once again, people were outraged. Why should Sean's family be the only ones suffering here? What about the kids of the mother whose life he took? What about Sonya's family and friends who are left to grieve? And what's this about Sean's fiancé dealing with an emotional death? What about Sonya's family, who had to bury her physically and emotionally? But what do you think about the whole situation? Do you think Sonya was set up? Is putting Sean behind bars enough, or should everyone around him get looked into too? That's it for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.